In July 1945, the USS Indianapolis completed one of the most secret missions of World War II. She delivered the core components of the atomic bomb. The cargo was so classified that even her crew didn't know what they were carrying. No escort. No warning. Just sealed containers, strict orders, and absolute silence. They succeeded. The mission was completed without incident. The cargo was delivered safely. The ship turned for home. And that's when everything went wrong. On the night of July 30th, as the Indianapolis crossed the Philippine Sea, she was struck by Japanese torpedoes without warning. The attack came in darkness. There was no radar contact. No time to react. The ship began to list immediately. Within 12 minutes, the USS Indianapolis was gone. Nearly 300 men were killed in the sinking. But the worst part hadn't even begun. Because over 900 sailors were now drifting in open ocean, scattered across miles of water. With no lifeboats, no supplies, and no rescue coming. No one knew the ship was missing. And for the next 4 days, the sea would decide who lived, and who didn't. The attack came without warning. Just after midnight on July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was moving quietly through the Philippine Sea. There was no escort. No zigzag pattern. Intelligence had reported the area as safe. It wasn't. A Japanese submarine, I-58, had been tracking her in darkness. 2 torpedoes struck in quick succession. The first explosion ripped through the ship's bow, detonating fuel and ammunition. The second struck near the center, cutting power instantly. Lights went out. Communications died. The ship began to list hard to starboard. There was no time to organize an evacuation. Men were thrown from their bunks. Compartments flooded almost immediately. Fires spread through the interior as the ship began to sink faster than anyone expected. Within 12 minutes, the USS Indianapolis was gone. Nearly 300 sailors went down with the ship. Those who survived the sinking found themselves scattered across miles of open ocean. Some clung to life jackets. Others floated on debris. Many had nothing at all. There were no lifeboats. No food. No water. And worst of all, no one knew they were missing. As dawn broke, hundreds of men were still alive in the water. They believed rescue would come quickly. They had no idea the real ordeal was only beginning. When the USS Indianapolis disappeared beneath the waves, the ocean went quiet. Those who survived the sinking found themselves scattered across miles of open sea. Some clung to life jackets. Others floated on debris. Many were injured, burned, or bleeding from the explosions. At first, there was relief. They had survived. The water was warm. The sky was clear. And they believed rescue would arrive within hours. After all, a ship that size wouldn't simply vanish without notice. But as the day wore on, reality began to set in. There were no lifeboats. No food. No fresh water. The sun beat down relentlessly, burning exposed skin and draining what little strength remained. Men began to suffer from dehydration almost immediately. Salt water coated their lips, cracking them open. Thirst became unbearable. As night fell, the ocean changed. Wounded men slipped beneath the surface without warning. Some simply let go. Others drifted away in the darkness, never to be seen again. By the second day, the first dorsal fins appeared. At first, the sharks circled at a distance, slow, deliberate movements just below the surface. But as bodies accumulated and blood spread through the water, the attacks began. Men were pulled under suddenly. Screams echoed, then stopped. Groups tried to stay together, believing there was safety in numbers. Others panicked, breaking away in desperation. Panic only made things worse. By the third day, exhaustion and hallucinations took hold. Some men believed ships were on the horizon. Others swam toward imagined land. Many drank seawater despite warnings, slipping into delirium soon after. The ocean was no longer just holding them. It was taking them. As the sun rose over the Philippine Sea, hundreds of men were still alive in the water. They expected rescue. After all, the USS Indianapolis was a heavy cruiser. Her arrival had been logged. Someone would notice she was missing. But no one did. The ship had not been reported overdue. Her route was classified. And the distress signals sent during the sinking were never received, or were ignored. For the men in the water, hope began to fade as hours turned into days. The heat was relentless. Fresh water ran out almost immediately. Saltwater poisoning began to take hold, driving some men to drink the very sea that was killing them. Then the sharks arrived. At first, they circled at a distance, dark shapes just beneath the surface. But as the wounded weakened and bodies drifted away, the attacks began. Men were pulled under without warning. Screams echoed, then stopped. Groups tried to stay together, believing there was safety in numbers. Others drifted away, exhausted, delirious, or already dying. By the third day, hallucinations set in. Some men believed ships were approaching. Others swam toward imaginary land, never to return. Still, no rescue came. The ocean had claimed more lives than the torpedoes ever did. And unless someone accidentally crossed their path, the survivors of the Indianapolis would disappear without a trace. On the fourth day, when hope was nearly gone, something unexpected happened. A U.S. Navy patrol plane was flying a routine mission over the Philippine Sea. There was no search underway. No active rescue operation. The flight wasn't even looking for survivors. Then the pilot noticed something strange. Oil slicks, debris, and tiny dark shapes moving in the water. At first, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Men. Hundreds of them. The pilot immediately radioed for help and dropped a life raft, the first aid the survivors had seen in days. Within hours, ships were diverted to the area and the rescue finally began. But it was too late for most. Of the more than 900 men who entered the water, only 316 survived. The rest had succumbed to dehydration, exposure, saltwater poisoning, exhaustion, and sharks. When the survivors returned home, many expected answers. Instead, they found silence. The Navy quietly acknowledged mistakes. The ship had not been properly tracked. Her arrival had not been logged. No one noticed she was missing until survivors were found by chance. In an effort to assign blame, the ship's captain, Charles McVeigh, was court-martialed, accused of failing to zigzag, even though evidence showed it would not have prevented the attack. McVeigh was convicted. For decades, he carried the weight of a tragedy he could not have prevented. Only years later would his name be cleared. And only decades later would the final resting place of the Indianapolis be found. For more than 70 years, the USS Indianapolis lay hidden. No memorial marked her grave. No one knew exactly where she had fallen. Only survivor accounts and fading coordinates pointed to the open ocean. In 2017, that finally changed. Using advanced deep-sea scanning technology, a research team located the wreck more than 18,000 feet beneath the Philippine Sea. When the cameras descended into the darkness, they revealed a haunting sight.